Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to another episode of the River and Reds. I am Grev, and this is your first time joining us. It is a pleasure to welcome you to the channel. Please do give this video a like. Please do give a subscribe to the channel. We try and review every single Arsenal game every single time that we're on. And in this relatively boring international break, we're playing rip-roaring fives. So we're joined by a special guest, the one and the only Sham from This Week as Arsenal, as we rank our top 5 goals of all time. If you haven't joined Rip Roaring Fives before, we'll rank our goals from number 5 all the way to number 1, hopefully to determine our greatest goal by Arsenal ever. But before we get into all of that, I know we're probably all missing the Arsenal. Tell me, Sham, how are you feeling right now? Are you missing the Arsenal? Do you find this international break as boring as we do?
Oh, I always miss Arsenal when they're gone for a period of time. I think I hate, and I feel like we actually do this a lot. I hate going into international breaks on a down note, which is kind of what happened with the Brighton match. Because I feel like the Arsenal fan base is one that just you shouldn't leave them alone with their thoughts for too long, and we've left them alone with their thoughts for too long. So. Looking forward to next weekend. Just to have another chapter in the story for us to talk about. And I don't know, man. I just find international breaks really boring, especially this early in the season. There's no point to it really. But there's qualifiers and all that, so maybe I'm just being uncharitable.
No, you're not. We don't care about international football at all.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that it's just 3 weeks into the season as well. I think if this was maybe 6 or 7 weeks into the season, we'd maybe be more forgiving. Just feels far too soon, particularly after a Euros and a CONCACAF and all the other kind of stuff that's going on. It just seems a bit crazy.
Yeah, you're just sitting there watching, especially for if you're an English Arsenal fan, you're sitting there watching Saka and Rice do full 90s for England against Ireland. And it's like, what's the point here? What are we doing?
I think Rice did take a knock early on, and we were like, just take him off. Just take him off. I mean, he's not playing for us anyway, right? So I suppose it's not all bad.
Yeah, but we'll need him on Thursday. I'll put it like that.
I was venting about that short story. My detox from football was F1. I'm a massive F1 fan, and yesterday I went to the toilet bowl to do F1 karting. The toilet bowl, if you don't know, is White Hart Lane.
I see.
Spurs have done a deal where they've got an F1 go-kart track under their stadium, which is awesome. And maybe that's what they should use the stadium for, not football, because they're not very good at it. But that was great fun. But we went into a bar afterwards near the stadium, and me and my mate are both Arsenal fans. We went in. My other mate's a Spurs fan. He organised it. Surprise, surprise. We're in a bar full of Spurs stuff around us. And there's just me and my mate just shouting at the television, telling, take Saka off, because they've taken everyone else off.
Yeah.
And like Palmer and Watkins and all these other players are pulled out, and it's just like of the squad, and it's just so frustrating.
And Madueke, who everyone is saying is better than Saka because Wolves let him score the same goal 3 times, didn't step on the pitch. I would have loved him to take 30 minutes off of Saka, but here we are. So.
Yeah. They've obviously gone to the same school as Arteta, where we all know that Saka has to play 90 minutes, no less. And it's a shame.
Everything will go to hell if he leaves the pitch for 2 minutes.
I think maybe it will. Maybe something bad will happen to the world, so we've got to keep it up.
Yeah.
Right. So as I said, we're going to go into our top 5 goals of Arsenal of all time. I don't know if you struggled as much as I did making my selections here, because I think me and Jace were just talking in the green room quickly beforehand and said, I think you could make a top 20 Thierry Henry compilation quite easily and not even struggle. So having 5 only Arsenal goals is going to be proving difficult in itself. Yeah. So do you want to write down your number 5, and then we'll do a little bit of a countdown? I'm going to quickly write mine down before. Sure. Yeah, my pen is now struggling as well, Jace. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I'm going to switch to the iPad. Straight up.
Right, I am. Are you ready, Jace? Are you doing it on the iPad?
No, I'm not ready.
All right, he's not ready. Sham, are you ready?
Yeah, I got it.
Someone go first. Someone go first. That's fine.
You got to do the countdown, Jace. You're going to ruin the suspense.
Oh, I'm really sorry. Here we go.
Right. After 3, Jace?
Jesus, I'm not that quick, mate. Jesus.
You said you were ready. This is unreal. Right, I'll tell you what. This is how you get good quality suspense, by building it up like this. I hope it's a good one, Jace. I'm going to be very, very disappointed.
Oh, it's a very good one. If you remember it, bro.
I won't. My memory's terrible. Right. After 3, we ready? 3, 2, and 1. Oh, look at that. Nice. So I had Shams on my list. So Sham, you go first. Tell me about our shaving at Liverpool.
Alonso, last man back, releases it. Arshavin, 4.
So specifically, this is the 4th one that he scored. But I mean, the other 3 are excellent. In particular, I love the second. But the all 4 of those goals really hold a special place in my heart. I wasn't sure the metric to base this off of. So in my head, I'm kind of going off of just the overall aesthetic of the goal, and then kind of the importance of the goal and any emotion that it elicited. But that 4th goal in particular is really special to me because I watched this game as a teenager in the basement on like a dinky little those computers from the 90s that had like the massive backs on the screens, and like we're talking like a full chunky Microsoft 95 kind of computer that I was watching this on with my brother, who's a Liverpool fan. So just kind of this back and forth, and like us screaming at the television or screaming at the computer and then screaming at ourselves. It was a really fun game for me. And so for that goal to happen, where it's headed out of the box, Walcott snaps onto it, sprints the length of the field, and you just see Arshavin at the bottom corner of the screen, just busting a gut, running even faster than Walcott did. And then for him to finish, I think, as extravagantly as he did, the first 3 goals were off his right foot, and then this one came off his left, top corner. I think he shot it from a distance he didn't need to shoot it from. He could have taken it a little closer, but I think at this point he was feeling himself. And it was just, a phenomenal goal. I thought we'd won the game. I thought we'd pulled off this amazing win at Anfield. Yossi Benayoun would have something to say about that a couple of minutes later. But overall, I just thought it was a really brilliant goal. And this is kind of in the first couple years of my Arsenal fandom, so it really stuck with me.
Yeah, I think everyone just remembers that image though, right? That image is just in any Arsenal fan, their head. It's just ingrained in their head. So I had it on my shortlist as well. So I can't dispute anything you've said. I love the word extravagant as well. What a great word to use.
I think that's just how I describe Arshavin generally as a player.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, very extravagant.
Right,
not much.
He is very extravagant.
Yeah, maybe not much substance past that, but
What else do you need?
Yeah,
he loves fashion, doesn't he? He's like into fashion design as well. It was like one of his hobbies. I found it. He's just a fascinating character. I loved him. He's brilliant.
Did you have Ray Parlour? I didn't see the game, Jace. Give it to me again. What was it?
You didn't see the game, or you did? Or you just didn't know the goal. So Ray Parlour, FA Cup final against Chelsea, 2002, double winning season. If you don't know the goal, he takes the ball middle of the field, about 20 yards from, in the Chelsea's half. Middle, when I say middle of the field, about 20 yards from goal. Cuts inside and probably about 30, 35 yards out, just puts it in the top corner over the top of Kudashini. It's an FA Cup final goal, but it's just an absolutely outrageous FA Cup final goal. It's just a long distance strike, which just puts it instantly in one of the best FA Cup final goals ever. Sentimental to me, why? It's, I was 11, maybe 2002. And so it's one of those goals when you're a kid, it sticks with you. Followed up by Grev, you and I got the opportunity to meet Ray Parlour a couple of years back when we went to one of his talks, and the very shirt he was wearing in the cup final was signed on my wall. So that for me is why that sits. That's definitely in my top 5. Very special goal, very special place in my heart.
Nice
one.
I like the fact that you've gone. So I've gone an FA Cup final too, and I've also gone a little bit sentimental, and it may be a bit sentimental. It's not a special goal by any means, really. It's Aaron Ramsey in the 2017 FA Cup final, scored the winner against Chelsea. And the reason why it's special, Jason, me and you were there to watch that game, and that's kind of why it holds a special place in my heart, because it's very rare, even as English football fans, right, Sham, that we get to go to finals. They're very difficult to come by, and only a certain group of people get to go. And me and Jace got to go to it, which was pretty special.
That Ramsey goal, I unfortunately wasn't really kind of into football generally, let alone following Arsenal in 2002. But the Ramsey goal, that FA Cup was the first trophy I watched Arsenal lift as an Arsenal fan. So I just remember the sheer emotion in that moment when Ramsey scored it. I've never went nuts like that. So and I actually was thinking of putting that one on the short list. Just I think Giroud's involvement was a little underrated. Obviously, excellent finish from Ramsey. So that was an excellent one. And Ray Parler scored some bangers back in the day. I've seen most of the goals that he scored later on in YouTube comps, but
that's why I use Jason. Jason's my memory. My memory is so poor that anytime I need to look back at old goals, Jason could just tell me what they were, and he can describe them in such intricate details that I just don't have the power to do. It's really good.
In short, I had no social life, no brothers or sisters, and as a kid, I used to get all of the VHS tapes of every season or DVD from Arsenal. So I just rewatch every season over and over again on repeat, and most of it's ingrained in my mind. Most of it.
Yeah. When I look back, I was just looking back at this when I was reading more about the goal. So I remember it. We were there. I got the program, got the flag, got everything right, Jason. Obviously, we went.
Yeah.
That season was shocking. It was such an awful season, and was kind of rescued by this trophy. Really, it was the same season. I think we went to the home game against Bayern Munich where we got hammered. And I think it was the 10-2 aggregate one. It was a pretty bad season.
Well, it was the season that Conte won the league with Chelsea, right? And then we played in the final, and everyone's like, "Oh, Chelsea are going to do the double." And we just it was Per Mertesacker's redemption performance, because he'd been injured the whole season, hadn't played, and he turned up for the cup final, right? And he just played one of the best performances of his career. Rob Holding going to Diego Costa with his temple, going like that. That was brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
You're a psycho. You're a nutter. That was brilliant. Just good memories.
Good. Right. Let's give you a chance to write down then your number 4s. Just write them down, Mike. This one is another one that's somewhat sentimental to me, and a little story as well. So, right. Who is ready?
Oh, I still need to write this down. I've noticed that the Sharpie is bleeding through to the next page, so I'm hanging a page. I'm basically hanging the notebook off the desk while I'm writing this, and it's just one page on the desk, kind of holding it up.
Yeah, I've had that. Mine's definitely not great either, but it'll do the trick. This is why Jason's gone all iPad. He's gone all special on us.
Yeah, but it takes ages to write. You have to rub up everything first. So.
Right. Are we all ready?
Let's do it.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Wow, that is a good one, Sham. Isn't it?
Oh yeah, that goal was.
I'm gonna have to let Sham go first, purely on the basis. So Sham has chose that Nelson goal against Bournemouth. Me and you were there, right, Jace? Yeah. I think both of us have stated, Sham, that this is probably one of our core. If we're talking about Inside Out from Pixar, our core memory, the limbs that went absolutely everywhere, thinking that we could still do it. Incredible.
It's one of the moments where I especially found myself jealous of everybody I know who got to go to the game, because that was just a fairy tale moment, really, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that goal has everything. It has, obviously. I don't think enough people have talked about how hard Nelson's finish is there, right? Where he just kind of brings the ball, sets himself, takes the half volley. in a crowded penalty area. Like, he really had to nail the angle of that shot. And he, I think if he tried that 99 more times, I'm not sure if he nails it the way he did there. Obviously the timing is, at the death, which which is crazy still to think about. And I just remember at that moment, after he put the goal away, as everyone was celebrating, and Saliba was showing everybody what his tongue looked like. I just remember thinking to myself, like, this might be our year. That I feel like this is one of those things that really, goes in your favor when it's your turn to win. So obviously things didn't pan out that way, but just kind of the hope that injected in the season, was amazing. So I think for me as well, that's probably one of my favorite moments as an Arsenal fan, especially because I tweaked my knee celebrating. So we were living in like a small apartment because my wife and I moved in together during COVID, right? So we were living in like a small apartment together. So I had a living room that was maybe like 8 feet by 10 feet, basically. So I started running around like in tiny circles and tweak my
There are
knee.
worse reasons to get injured. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it was worth it. So
I think so.
I mean, we weren't exactly unharmed from that, if I remember rightly.
I think it was about 2 or 3 rows in front of us. I can't remember.
I've never. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the only game I can remember us not being positioned where we started.
Yeah. It was, I think, like you say, like you ride your luck, right? That was at a time when you're like, as champions, you do get a lot of luck, and that felt in that moment. Like you say, that was it. We were riding our luck. It was happening for us. Everything that could have happened, like you say, you could take that shot 99 more times and not score it. But that in that moment, it felt real.
I just think the margins in today's Premier League are such that you need that bit of luck. I think it's an unfortunate fact of just how good everybody is now. Like you need a couple things to break your way. That you're not entirely in control of. So, to see things go down the way they did with the Nelson goal, just, kind of starts making you think, maybe luck's on our side this time.
At the top of the pod, you said that, Arsenal fans are left alone with their thoughts. And that's exactly what you mean when you're left alone with those margins that we just saw against Brighton, and you have to vegetate on them for 2 weeks. Doesn't bode well. And we think far too deeply on those points possibly dropped that could be meaningful at some point towards the end of the season, perhaps.
Stop bringing it back up, Grev.
Sorry, my bad.
I've been venting about it on Twitter for like a week now, and I like there are people in my mentions just like why are you still mad? And I'm just like, oh, we're gonna be talking about this all season.
Yeah, get used to it. It's catharsis. It's fine. It's fine. Right, Jace, you've got an incredibly important goal in the history of Arsenal. I want you to just it was Bergkamp against Newcastle, right?
Yeah, the flick.
Yeah, just talk me through that goal because it is incredible.
So Perez has the ball on the left side in the Newcastle half. Bergkamp makes a run through the centre between defenders. It's kind of an eye of the needle ball from Perez to find him. It's amazing. And then Bergkamp's first touch, in theory, his back's almost backs to goal, right? And so no one's expecting. Usually when your back's to goal, you're kind of trying to play it out to the side and turn to get a shot away. No one expected him to do what he did. No one expected him to flick it with the opposite side of his body, twist in the opposite direction around the defender, and then be through on goal, just a side tap into the corner. I get so happy thinking about that goal. I had the pleasure of watching it a few times today. He's the magician. Omri, we'll probably talk about Omri a little bit in this episode. Is for most Arsenal fans, especially Arsenal fans my age, is the icon. But the most skillful and most intelligent player that's ever played for Arsenal is Dennis Bergkamp, and it's exactly showcased in that very, very moment, and that just such a genius goal. I again remember exactly where I was the moment it happened as well, because I wasn't actually watching it. I was on holiday in France, and we didn't have the ability to watch it live. I was walking wearing a Robert Pires shirt for a French supermarket as a little kid, and I had to have Pires on the back because obviously he's French. And this French guy just went to me like 2-0. 2-0. And I was like, what? He went 2-0. And I was like, oh, brilliant. I could manage that, and then managed to get home and watch the highlight. And it was just like, oh, just amazing.
I'm not going to spoil what I've got, but I think I might have this goal on my list at some point. And Wenger said you won't see many goals like that. It's an unbelievable goal. And I think it is. I'm going to ask you a question, Jace. I wonder if you've got the answer. Do you think he meant it?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
He's got the intelligence for it. You can go through a showcase. I think, have I got another one of his goals in here? I can remember. Oh, I do have another goal for Bergkamp. But I went through a showcase of his goals as well, and it's the delicate touches that he has to control the ball that then position the next part of the event, whether that's a pass and assist or whether that's a shot on goal. He has that intelligence, and there's so many goals like that you can watch through his show reel. You know, he did one in the World Cup, he did one against Leicester. He's 100% meant that.
I always feel a little bad for Bergkamp because I think at 95% of other clubs, he would be the best player in that club's history.
Yeah, right.
by a margin, right? And it's like you said. I mean, the guy just had crazy skill, was an absolute magician with the ball, very intelligent player. I think was one of those guys who was just very aware of the subtle differences, kind of like the positioning of the body or the contact you make with the ball, like the subtle differences those could have on the way the ball moved, if that makes sense. I think he was hyper aware of that kind of thing. And if it wasn't for the fact that I think arguably one of the greatest players of all time wore an Arsenal shirt for, the better part of a decade, I think we'd be talking about Bergkamp as the best Arsenal player of all time. It's just Henry came through, and that's a whole it's a resume you can't really argue with. But Bergkamp comes just disgustingly close to Henry.
It's incredible as well that they obviously played very similar time frames. I think, like you say, maybe if they hadn't, the story could have been somewhat different in how they're remembered. I mean, both of them are obviously club legends, but I suppose remembered outside of their Arsenal sphere into other clubs and how they're revered by other clubs and other fans. Yeah, maybe it could have been different, but you're right. I've got someone who I think is somewhat underrated. So there's two reasons why I've chosen it. So I've got the Giroud scorpion kick against Crystal Palace. I'll go through the first reason why, and Jason knows this story already, so I'm going to tell it. It was one of the first games that I took my first son to an Arsenal game. I think it was his third game, so we took him maybe to an Emirates Cup. This was the first league game that I'd managed to take him to, his first proper game. We're obviously sat there in the stands. He turns to me and says, "Dad, I need the toilet." I was like, "Okay, let's run and be quick." Obviously, you know where this is going, Sham. So go to the toilet, and I'm taking there, just waiting for him to do his thing. And I hear this sound that wasn't quite like raucous cheer. It was an odd sound. I don't quite know how to fully describe it, but you knew something had happened, but you didn't know what had kind of happened. And obviously I was like, went through back out to the concourse to see on the screen that we were winning 1-0. And this was at a time where they didn't really play a lot of replays. Yeah, and they still don't really in the ground a lot of the time now. So I went back to a seat and kind of asked someone what happened. And they just told me that I needed to watch this goal back. And part of the reason why the sound was so different to a normal goal was just gasps and shock from the fans, because the goal was incredibly audacious. I don't know if he meant it. I don't know if I'd say he did, because I think that by his body shape, it looked like he was trying to do it. And it was an incredible scorpion goal that I don't think we've ever seen one quite like it ever since. And it was just the reason why I love it as a goal was not only just for that story, because it's like the moment that I missed by just taking my son to the toilet, which I don't fully grasp. Like, he'll never live that down. I'm sure I'll probably mention it at his wedding if he ever gets married, something along those lines. But also Giroud is just, I think, an incredibly underrated Arsenal starlet who played at a time when, frankly, we weren't very good. And he was at the time when he was at our club, he was not liked by many other fans of other clubs. He was certainly kind of downput and downtrodden by a lot of other teams. And I feel that after he left, he was much more revered and much more loved than I think he ever was when he was actually at the ground and actually playing. And so I really like Giroud, and I really miss, what I wouldn't give right now to have his kind of ability in the air. And some of the balls that we're playing into the box at the moment, we'd be scoring headers. That Kai Havertz one, we'd be getting probably one of those, two of those every game. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, I think people are extremely harsh on Giroud, and I think he's just kind of misunderstood as a player a little bit. Because I think it was very clear shortly after we signed him that this guy wasn't, a bags man, if you will, right? This wasn't like a deadly killer in front of goal, but he was. I always called him like an offensive fulcrum, just someone who the attack turned around, right? But I mean, when you look back, we mentioned the Ramsey FA Cup final goal, and we're talking about the Scorpion kick now. I think if you go back, you'll find that Giroud actually was involved in a lot of really amazing goals for Arsenal. Sure, the guy missed a bunch of chances and very crucial moments that he has not yet been forgiven for, but at the same time, I think he did come up with some, really special moments here and there. So I'm all about that pick personally.
Nice, I appreciate that.
Right, that goal won the Puskás award.
It did, yeah, and it won our goal of the season as well. I think that,
yeah,
must have. But yeah, I just, I'll never be able to watch it live. And so there you go. All right, let's get your number 3 written down. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go first because you've already mentioned my one, so there's not much more to say. Right. This pen's having a field day, I tell you. All right, I am ready.
1 second.
Sham looks ready. Jace, what you saying? You ready?
Yep.
All right, let's. I like when he says yeah, but he's still writing. It's like an exam. Pens down, Jace. Right, 3, 2, 1. Jason, you said you were going to do that. Nice. Right. I'll just go first, only because we've mentioned it already. So my number 3 is Bergkamp versus Newcastle. And what more is there to say than the both of you have already put into words?
Bergkamp suddenly changed pace through the centre. It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent.
Smooth as silk, audacious, confident, and a player that is, immortalised for Arsenal, and an incredible goal. So I won't necessarily go into more detail than the fact that, I thought that some of us would have it on that list, and I'm glad to see that, Jason, you had it, and I've got it too. What did you have, Jace? I can't remember off the top of my head. What did I see? I think it was O2.
So this is the O2 away, Villa Park, Aston Villa. Perez lobs Schmeichel. Ball comes across from Vieira, picks it up. He manages to lift it over one defender and then sees Schmeichel off his line, just lobs him from very far out, like a half volley on the side footed. It was brilliant. Just amazing goal. I think it was actually the second to last game of the season when we were going for the league title against United. So it was a really, really, really important goal. I think it was the game before we ended up going, last away game before we ended up going to Old Trafford and Wiltord scored the winner, I think. Don't quote me on it. But it's for me, Grev, it's the goal that makes me want to go and get the replica of the gold shirt again that I gave away from when I was a kid, because it doesn't fit me. It didn't fit me anymore anyway. But like that goal, I was watching it today, just thinking, damn. Grev's just bought, by the way, for context, he's bought for quite a lot of money an original gold Sega 2002 Arsenal shirt, and rewatching that made me want it. Again,
is he from the left, and he basically half volleys it straight over the keeper, and he's trotting back, right?
Yeah. But it's like Sham mentioned, right? You look at Bergkamp, you look at it being underrated. Perez, he's ridiculously underrated in the Premier League for that era as well. Specifically because there's so many. We've got a lot of friends who are Man United fans. So everyone talks about Beckham, everyone talks about Giggs is the wingers from that period who are lauded, but no one ever puts Robert Pires in that category. And I just think he is so underrated in his ability, his technical ability, and his ability to kind of run. I don't know how to explain. He runs flat-footed, and he's like a silent assassin because he was always in the back post for a tap-in as the ball came across from Lundberg. Just so many goals like that, and just so underrated. And his technical ability was in that goal just proves it. And there was another goal that I didn't put in, but I'll just call it out. He scored a goal in the Invincible season away at Anfield, which was such an important goal, and it's been just outside the box, and it's a curler into the top corner. It's just he scored so many good goals. I had to get a Pires goal in, but that was my favourite. I think that's
like I say, in a team full of like so many good technical ball players as well, like he sometimes feels a bit forgotten. That was an incredible player.
That's peak Wenger ball.
It was. And well, maybe Sham's referencing a goal that brought back peak Wenger ball after a period of time, I guess. Maybe we talked about it a little bit in the green room beforehand. So it's Henry versus Leeds, right, from 2012?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. It was
so, I don't think this is Henry's best goal, but I tried to I really only picked goals that I have watched like as a current Arsenal fan. I didn't feel it didn't feel right for me to go back and pick a bunch of goals from before I came along, although there are plenty of goals in that catalog that would make this list. But the Henry goal against Leeds when he returned to Arsenal, when I first became an Arsenal fan, I really only had like one season with Henry. So I remember like his I remember his one goal against Blackburn probably being like one of the first goals I actually watched as like a self-proclaimed Arsenal fan. So I always felt like I didn't have enough time with him, right? When he took off to Barcelona. So I was so excited when he returned on loan, knowing full well that this wouldn't be, the Henry of old. But that goal against Leeds where, Song plays him in and, he just nails, the really marquee, like, famous Henry-esque finish, right? Just slots it into the far corner, and runs away celebrating. I thought that was just a really beautiful moment for me personally, because I got to watch kind of prime Henry, if only for like a couple seconds. You know what I mean? I felt like he just rolled the years back in that moment. So I was watching that at one of my dad's friends' places in Miami, and it was another one of those situations where I almost hurt myself celebrating, just because of how exciting that goal was, and how special of a moment that was, and I just thought it was great to see.
Yeah, I mean, so I was lucky enough to be in the ground that day, and I grew up watching and adoring Thierry. He's my hero. Again, he's on my wall, signed shirt. And words can't describe what the man means to me. But to be I didn't get the opportunity when I was young, really, to go. And I actually never got to see him play in this first period. Watched all of his games, every game, but I never got to see him play. So to be in the ground for that moment was very special. And the Emirates, when it first got created, for those first 6, 7, 8 years of it being there, the atmosphere compared to Highbury was just not known not to be good. And that goal changed everything. Like, with an exception of the Reece Nelson goal, the loudest and just most mental moment that's ever happened in the stadium was that goal. It was like everyone lost their shit. It was ridiculous. Just great moment. And I was speaking with Grev before because I was like, I actually didn't put this on my list. I forgot.
By the way, I have the shirt, that shirt from 2012, signed by Henry with my name, like, to Rob, which obviously is somewhat meaningful to me as well. And I'd like to say, I think you mentioned it feels like a nostalgia act, and usually the nostalgia never lives up to the real thing. Like say, like me, when I was at school, I was an Arsenal fan, but I probably didn't as watch it as religiously as Jason did. And so my time in adoring and liking Thierry Henry was mainly through retrospect and in compilations and in other bits and pieces. So getting to see and experience that moment, like you say, and it wasn't a nostalgia act, it was real, and he did the same things that he did, and he wheeled away the same way that he did and celebrated the same way that he did. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Right, we're almost getting there. Number 2. I mean, if this pen lasts the evening, I'll be very impressed. Is yours getting there as well, James?
I've given up with the pen.
Oh, yeah. Right. I'll be surprised. I think this one has to be in your list somewhere, but like, obviously, you've only got 2 more to go. So we'll see. Right. You ready? Everyone looks ready? All right. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Oh, we've all gone very, very differently. Right. Jace, talk to me. Henri 0203, is that?
Yeah, I mean, Sham's done kind of the honours with this one, really, because he talked about the classic Henri finish. This was that finish.
It's a good run, and here's some space for Henri. Immediately reply, and what a reply!
Stadio Olimpico, Rome. Arsenal 1-0 down in the Champions League after 4 minutes. Henri scored a hat-trick that game. They called it, they created a DVD. Oh, actually, no, maybe they didn't. Maybe they created a DVD after. But at the time, it was called The Italian Job. It's it's a very famous British film called The Italian Job. But it was it was the finish. I don't need to say much more, because if you know the finish against Leeds, then you'll know the finish against Roma, because they were identical in regards to his movement and his side foot. It's the ability to side foot it into the far corner, and the gap is like thread of a needle. Like, it's just and there are so many Henri goals. Reason I haven't put more Henri goals in, because I could just put them all in, is because I think he deserves his own 5s. We need to just do an Henri of his own 5s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to choose one, and it's one of those ones. Also in the UK, the games are always on at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening. And so it was a school night, and I was allowed to stay up late to watch it. It's just, just remember it.
Nice. Sham, you had Saka versus United.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
So I remember kind of the build up to this game. I think Sash and I were talking about it on This Week in Arsenal. Yeah, that sounds about right. And we weren't the only ones saying this. I heard this said on a few other Arsenal podcasts as well. But kind of in the build up to that game, I remember there was kind of a small conversation happening among the fan base about how Saka needs to take that next step and become a player who produces moments, right? It felt like a lot of Saka's goals up until then were very systemic, right? Very replicable. Obviously he burst onto the scene with some spectacular individual moments, but we hadn't seen much of those in recent memory leading up to this game. And then here we were. I believe the score is 1-1 at this point, and Saka just steps up, beats 2 men, and just decides he's going to take the shot from outside the box. He liked the angle, and it just flashes in. I forget. Was it Onana in goal, or was this still De Gea? I forget. I mean, they're both relatively useless, but it flashed in past the United keeper, and I just remember watching that, thinking to myself, those are the moments that Saka needs to produce, and I think we've seen more of those from him. And yeah, I just thought it was a really great goal. I think that was the moment Saka kind of announced himself really as a star, as a superstar. And, eventually we went on to win that match 3-2. Obviously, it gave us the lead at the moment. I think United pegged us back before Nketiah scored the winner. But, I think it was really important kind of for the direction of the match and the overall result. So, I just remember that goal very fondly in terms of kind of where it is on the trajectory of Saka's career.
Yeah, we've been talking about his growth into what might be like the main character, or his maybe more villainous, more edgy, more I am that guy's side. And this feels to me like maybe one of those archetypal moments where he's grown into that person that he is now. He is like, I'm the man, I'm the one. I can't believe as well that was the thing it shows. He was I think it's 7 years. This is his 7th year now. And he's 23, which is he 23?
Yeah.
Incredible, crazy.
Yeah, and it's his trademark now as well. That goal, that finish, that's his trademark finish now. Isn't
we always talk about how he's like Robin. You know what he's going to do, and you're powerless to stop it. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, he's going to cut on onto that left foot, and he's going to do what he wants.
Yeah.
I
have gone for Jack Wilshere against Norwich, which I think is Arsenal's greatest ever team goal. So there's a lot of goals in this list where you can talk about players, or you can talk about moments, or you can talk about individual brilliance, whatever you want to talk about. But this one was a team goal that started by Wilshere himself, and just the intricate play between, I think it was Santi, Giroud, and Wilshere, just a pinball on the edge of the box that somehow kind of just, it didn't, in real time, you didn't really know what you were watching. I don't think it wasn't until the replay show and it's kind of slowed it down a little bit. You saw how intricate the passes were, how meaningful they were, and purposeful they were. And it just carved them. Norwich did not know what has happened, what just occurred to them, and that goal went down. And I think match of the day, it was their goal of the season. I remember just watching it again and again and again, because it's just one of those goals that I don't think we've talked about goals in this list here that you could do 99 times and maybe get it right once in 100. I don't think you will ever see a goal that would marry up as intricately as this goal did and was in a team anymore. This, you said Arteta ball earlier, right, Jess? I think, and this was sorry, maybe you mentioned Wenger ball. Obviously, we got Arteta ball from Wenger ball, but this is prime Wenger ball. And it also just calls back a lot to me as like Wilshere was the kind of player that never was. A little bit for Arsenal fans, like we talk about some of these type of players like Diaby as well, who looked like they could have been the real deal, and this was another moment in his career where you're like, yeah, he is the man. And it was just a shame that he was obviously plagued by injuries and stuff like that, but this goal stands out in a catalogue of good Wilshere moments and goals that I think will stand the test of time. I think it was really good.
I had this on my short list, didn't quite make the cut, but yeah.
Let's hope your number one's good. Let's hope your number one's good then, Jess.
That's
it. Right, go on. Get your number. Yeah, I suppose. All right. Let's get your number one down, and then let's see what we all think is the best one. This pen is not lasting. Right. I think I'm ready. If you'll be able to read it. Sham's ready. Jace is writing War and Peace for this goal.
No.
It's going to be good.
There you go.
Right. Go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, Jace has got the same one. And then Sham's got it. We were so close. We were so close. Right, Sham, go on. You. What more could you say than what I've already said? I suppose. What does it mean much to you?
There's a reason why I stayed silent, because I was saying there and I was like, do I just say that was going to be my first one, or do I just come up with another one? But I stuck with this one because I really do believe it is genuinely one of the best goals we've ever scored. And a wise man once said, the point is to do something so well, or the point is to play football so well that it becomes an art, right?
And here he is again. That's astonishing. It's absolutely world class.
And I think while there are plenty of moments where I wish we were less dedicated to making football into an art during the Wenger era, I think there are also plenty of moments where we did genuinely accomplish that, right? And I think this is one of those moments where, like you said, just kind of it felt very free. It felt like just, a bunch of friends just messing around on a field together. You know what I mean? Just, little slide to Giroud, flick to Wilshere, flick back to Giroud, and then sliding in Wilshere just to pass the ball past an absolutely stunned keeper. I think that's kind of one of the things I love the most about that goal. Just the level of skill was so insane that I think the Norwich defenders and keeper were genuinely stunned, right? Because I think I don't really highly rate the defending in that sequence, and I think that's just because they were blown away. But yeah, I think it's just one of those moments where you really, mastered the technicality and the technical level in football so much that I think that goal genuinely is a piece of art, is a work of art. I remember watching it live. I stopped the game and just went back and watched that goal a few times because I couldn't believe I couldn't my brain couldn't process what had occurred the first couple of times. So yeah, I think that's the moment I always think of when I think of Wilshere, who, like you said, was kind of the player that never really got to realize the legacy that he was probably headed for at Arsenal. And it's like we said earlier. I think this is just kind of another really illustrious and spectacular moment that Giroud found himself involved in that I don't think he gets enough credit for. So yeah, all in all, lovely goal. Yeah.
Well, I think there was I watched an interview with Wilshere after the game, because I think even he said one of the Norwich players went to him afterwards and said, "You just need to watch that goal back," because I don't think even Wilshere at the time realised how good a goal it was. And you're probably right that everyone was just too stunned to defend. So it might have felt like he was waltzing through it, but that's not to undermine the absolute perfection and art form, like you say, of that goal.
Yeah.
Well, me and you, Jace, have gone for the same goal. I'm assuming with the same goal, it's the knee slide, right?
Yeah, it is. Hang on, for anyone, because we haven't edited the video in yet. There we go.
That moment, yeah. I mean, Jason, you're going to do it much better justice than I ever would or could. Please wax lyrical about this goal.
Picks the ball up on the halfway line, and just runs the pitch. To be honest, taken on many Spurs players. I think the most famous one is I don't know if he definitely went around Jamie Redknapp. I can't remember if he put him on the floor, but so Jamie Redknapp, obviously being a pundit on Sky Sports in the UK, he always gets a lot of stick for that, which is brilliant because obviously he's ex-Spurs. And yeah, the goal was against Spurs, right? So what more is there? The fact that he was able to run the pitch against Spurs, just outside the ball, slot it in nicely low in the corner, and then run the length of the pitch back to slide on his knees in front of the Spurs fans is just it's just like at that point he cemented himself in folklore, and the fact is that is cast in bronze outside the stadium. So not much more to say than that. I mean, it was just a perfect setting. The rivalry, the team. It was in a big game. He took on the way in which he did he scored the goal as well. It wasn't just like scoring against Spurs and tap in or shot from somewhere around the box. He ran the pitch. So and then he ran the pitch again just to celebrate. Yeah.
I said I wrote that goal couldn't be more special in its own right. I think all the components of that goal, when placed together, make it as meaningful as it is. Like I say, you could have the moment where he just scores that goal on its own. You could have him running the length of the pitch on its own, the celebration on its own. But those components married together in such a special moment, as well as being against our biggest rival, it could not be any more special. And so, yeah. And I think the fact you mentioned, like, he brushed I think it was like 4 or 5 players, literally brushed them aside. Like, yeah, I don't know how to say anything better about. I agree with you. I do. As an individual piece of brilliance and a goal, I do think it's one of Arsenal's best. Like I said, it's not a team goal. That is Henry, who did everything right. And then he was well within his right to run the entire length of the pitch, knee slide in front of those fans, and immortalise himself in Arsenal fandom forever.
Yeah. There's nothing better than a player who. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Go for it. Yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
There's nothing better than a player who talks shit and backs it up if he's playing for you. And I think that was Henry to a T. I think Henry realized pretty early on in his career that he was good enough to back up, maybe a little bit of let's call it confidence and like just the right amount of arrogance, right? Um, and I think that goal right there is kind of an illustration in the current historic gap between Arsenal and Spurs. Because I don't think Spurs have a moment like that against us. There's no moment where a Spurs player picked the ball up, basically halfway down the pitch, and then proceeded to steamroll all 11 of our players, and then slot the ball away and celebrate in front of our fans. You know what I mean? So, I think that just kind of represents the swagger that we deserve to have when it comes to kind of our rivalry with Spurs. And yeah, I do think that is kind of one of the most iconic moments in Henry's history with us.
Yeah. I think it's like it's not even just cemented in Arsenal fans. Like everyone knows that goal. When I was speaking to my wife earlier, she was like, "So you're going to choose Thierry with the knee slide is going to be the goal?" I was like, "She was like, it's on your wall." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, she knows. But yeah, even rival fans know how special that goal was. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that gives us at least a definitive 1 and 2, or at least pretty close between that Henry goal and that Wilshere goal. So yeah, a really good pick and selection, guys. Really, really appreciate that. Before we go though, I want to get Sham's thoughts. Obviously, we got a North London derby coming up in not a large amount of time. What do you think? What are you expecting from us this coming weekend?
Obviously, not having Rice is a big blow, but I still think we'll pull out the win, just because first of all, most of the personnel is still there, right? We're gonna roll out Raya, who I think he played a little bit for Spain over the break. White, who's had 2 weeks rest. Saliba, Gabriel. I am really interested to see what we do at that left back spot. Personally, after watching Calafiori against France the other day, the way he was kind of, coming into midfield he was doing it from left center back, but I think he could do it just as well from left back. Kind of coming in with Rice on the right, which, worked pretty well for England the other day. I like that balance. And, I think Calafiori is a very good progressive passer. I think Rice is as well, but Rice for me is more of a progressive carrier. And I think his main job would just be to feed the ball to Odegaard. And then I'm interested to see what we do up top, because you could have Calafiori come in, have Havertz kind of be like double tens with Odegaard, Saka on the right, maybe Sterling on the left, or Martinelli on the left, whichever one you want to do. Jesus down the middle. I still think we have plenty of options. I don't think Arteta will go with that. I think he's going to conspire to start Party at Spurs. I still think we can deal with it, to some extent. Yeah, I guess just to simplify it, the one thing about Spurs I'm worried about is them on transition. In the transition, Spurs are very, very threatening, but outside of that, I'm not all that concerned. If I don't really rate their defense. Porro is a good creative player. They've been starting Udogi, right? Or is Udogi?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah. Pedro, Porro and Udogi are like good attacking fullbacks, but you can get at them defensively. Romero is the South American Mustafi with just better PR. Van de Ven, I think, is genuinely a very good center back, but and then Vicario, I'm interested to see if we try to come at him with set pieces again, the way that we did last season. So I like our odds. I think we have the personnel to get the job done. It's really just a matter of how well we're able to defend the transitions and how efficient we are at taking our chances in their box. So I think if we can get those two things right, we'll walk away with 3 points and focus on, Atalanta and City. Yeah. So I'm annoyed, but I'm not panicking just yet.
You got a prediction for us? What do you reckon?
3-1 for us.
He's stolen your prediction, Jace. He's going to be fuming.
I always go 3-1.
You always go 3-1.
I think 3-1 is a good away prediction for us, against like the big five and Spurs. So
it's going to, as you said,
big five and Spurs.
It's going to be open, as you said. Like transition is a challenge, and I think this is going to be a who scores more kind of game, because we maybe aren't as solid as we want to be usually with having a strong midfield, but Spurs are leaky. They've got big holes, so we should exploit it.
Yeah. I mean, they're very vulnerable at the back, so I think that's where we're going to get the most joy, even in our transitions. I think is where we'll improve the most. I'm interested to see Sterling. You mentioned Sterling. I wonder whether or not this feels like a huge game to start Sterling in, and I think we mentioned this before, Jace, because it could be an amazing game for him to come into, and it could be a catastrophic game for him to come into. Could go either one of those two ways and could write himself in Arsenal history or not, depending on how it goes. But exciting. I'm excited to see how it goes, and I am looking forward to the Arsenal being back.
Yeah. I mean, regardless, it'll just be nice to be watching them and not having the same old, debates that we do during international break. So. Yeah,
I agree with that. Right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you, Sham. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're in the audience and have watched and enjoyed this, then like I said, please do give the video. Please do give a subscribe. And please do go down into the comments and tell us what your favourite Arsenal goal of all time is. And until next weekend, we'll see you again very soon.